Okay, so this workout is going to be different than your average core workout. It's not so much going to be an ab workout at all, really. We're going to focus mostly just on the pelvic floor and a little bit of the back, the posterior chain, which is also part of the core. So we're going to start with some really basic stuff. A lot of it is kind of internal, to where it's not even going to seem like you're doing anything visually, but inside you should feel it. There's going to be a lot of breathing involved, and you're definitely accomplishing something. So you're just going to start with your knees bent, feet on the floor, back nice and flat, ribs closed. So you don't need to be in like a full-on imprint. I really just want you to mostly be in like a neutral spine. So there's like a little bit of space between the low back and the mat, but there's no flaring of the rib cage. So those are all closed up. And we're just going to start with some Kegels, but we're going to focus on our breath work, and we're going to incorporate our transverse abdominals. So the difference between all the different parts of your abs as far as this exercise goes is the transverse abdominals and the rectus abdominals, two different things, and we do not want to engage the rectus abdominals. So that's like the six-pack abs. So that's like something that you would engage when you're doing like a crunch or something like that. But you really are focusing on the deeper part of the abs, which is the transverse abdominals. So you want to really think of pulling the belly button down into the spine while doing the Kegel. So you want to focus on keeping, like, if this makes sense, like the lower belly and the upper belly, where you would kind of feel that burn from a crunch, relaxed. So you're trying to not engage the rectus abdominals, the six-pack abs. You're trying to engage the transverse. So think of the layer underneath the six-pack abs, and on the sides, just think of pulling your belly button down deep into your spine and engaging all of that, but keeping the lower belly relaxed. It's like the best piece of advice I could give you to not engage the six-pack abs. So we're here on our back. We're going to take an inhale, and we want our exhale to be audible. And while you exhale, you're going to start with the Kegel first, and then like 2 seconds after engaging the Kegel, you're going to pull the belly button down to the spine. Okay, so now we can actually start. So you're going to take that inhale. On your exhale, Kegel in, pull the belly button down, 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 and you're squeezing as tight as you can, the Kegel and the belly, squeezing to where you really feel like you can't go anymore. And then in your inhale, go ahead and relax everything. Big inhale, and then again, exhale, Kegel in, pull the abs down, transverse abs, release on the inhale. And you're trying to make it big breaths. So you're trying to kind of hold it. It's not a shallow breath. You're trying to hold that Kegel as long as you can hold the exhale. So we're going to do that 10 times. Let's do it 8 more. Pulling in, and up. And then relax on the inhale. This is what the breath should sound like the length of the breath. So we'll do it 5 more times. Just go at your own pace. Your breath might be different lengths. It might sound slightly different. That's okay. You're just really focusing on the breath in conjunction with the engagement of the pelvic floor mostly, because that exhale will help your body disengage from the six-pack abs and engage the parts of the core that you're actually trying to focus on. But there's just a lot to think of all at once. So you really have to focus. You can't really think about music or look at your phone or anything like that. It's a super basic thing. We're clearly not even really moving, but there's a lot to it, so you have to focus. Do a few more. Biggest Kegel on the planet. Pulling it in as deep as you can go, like you're trying to suck something up to your rib cage. Let's do 1 more. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is very similar, but we're going to completely tell the abs to disengage. That includes the transverse. We want to think Kegel, so pelvic floor, as well as glutes. It's not like a hardcore glute engagement, but we want the movement to come from the glutes. So we're going to do a pelvic tilt, which we've done before. So we're basically just going to tilt the pelvis really to just one direction, in the sense of we're trying to find that imprint, and then on our release we're going to kind of just go relax to a neutral. So we're not trying to arch the back and go in all the directions the pelvis can go. We're just really thinking of going to 2. So the movement is, on the inhale you prepare, on the exhale you move, and then you inhale again to relax and release. So you exhale and do the Kegel first, and then like a second and a half later you're going to tilt the pelvis. It's a very small movement, and we want to disengage the abs completely. We want the movement to come from your butt, the glutes. So you're going to squeeze the glutes in order to tilt the pelvis. So don't let your core run the show, let your glutes, because the core really wants to. A lot of the times this is where that movement would originate from. So you kind of have to forget certain movements that you would do in the past and make the butt do all the work. So 10 of these. We'll just do a few together, and then you can hit the rest on your own. But we'll take that inhale to prepare. On the exhale, verbal exhale, engage the pelvic floor, do that Kegel, and then tilt the pelvis, squeeze the glutes in order to do so. And then we inhale to release and find that neutral spine. So we inhale, prepare, exhale, tilt, and tuck. So you're tucking the tailbone under, essentially, tilting the pelvis in that direction. Inhale, release. And exhale, engage the Kegel, squeeze the glutes in order to move the spine, and release. So again, it's a verbal, audible exhale. The exhale is going to help relax the belly, so that way the belly is not taking over. We want the glutes to be running this. So a couple more. And try to hold on to the pelvic floor engagement, hold on to the Kegel until you have tilted your pelvis back to neutral. So don't find the imprint and then inhale and then relax, but try to make everything as tight as possible until you're back to your starting position. So 10 of those, and then we're gonna kind of add on to that and go into a bridge. So we're staying here in the same position, essentially feet on the floor. You want them to be about hip width apart from one another, and you want your fingertips to almost be able to touch your heels. They don't have to all the way, you just don't want your feet to be too far away from you. Feet are in a parallel position. We're adding a bridge to what we just did. So we inhale to prepare, you exhale, tilt the pelvis while you're doing the Kegel, and then this time you're just lifting up. And it's a little harder to hold that Kegel throughout the entire process, but it's really important that that's what you're focusing on, as well as the glute engagement. So we're going to come back down on the inhale, and do not lose that Kegel until you reset at the bottom where you started. So inhale, prepare, exhale, Kegel, tuck the tailbone, and scoop the hips up, squeezing the glutes to do so. So we'll do 10 of these. Got 8 more. Really focus on that engagement of the pelvic floor, because it's really hard, or maybe it is just for me, to think of all those things at the same time. But you really gotta hold on tight. Like you're holding on to something down there that you don't want to drop, or else your life depends on it or something. That and your glutes, those are what we're focusing on here. Try to relax the belly. Think of digging up through your heels, not so much your toes. One, that's just the way you're supposed to do it, but also 2, the heels are gonna help you get deeper into the glutes and help the glutes do their job in this situation. So really focus on putting most of your weight into the heel. You can even lift your toes up a little bit like I am in order to help with that. Let's do a few more. Holding tight even at the top to that Kegel, keeping the glutes engaged until they hit the mat. Let's do 2 more. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Last one. And then that's that. So it's a glute engagement, technically a glute exercise, but we're focusing on the pelvic floor in conjunction with those movements. So we're going to flip over to our bellies now, And we're going to do another pelvic floor exercise that is very similar to the first one. And we're not going to go through the whole thing together, but we're going to kind of demonstrate it together. Doing this Kegel exercise on your belly is one of the best ways to do it without engaging the rectus abdominals, those six-pack abs, because when you're laying on your stomach, it's a little harder to engage that specific part of your core. So it's very basic. It's one of those exercises that looks like you're not doing anything, but you for sure are. So we're going to do 10 because that's the magic number. And it's the same idea as the first set of exercises that we did when we were on our back with the feet on the floor, but we're not going to even try to engage the transverse where we're pulling the belly to the spine. We're just doing a Kegel. So we're going to take that inhale, and on your exhale, you engage the pelvic floor and do that Kegel. Pulling as tight as you can up, like you're trying to send something up to your belly button. We're doing 10 of those. So very basic. This is something you could even start the whole process with if you start to kind of get to know the exercises and you don't need to necessarily watch the video to refer to it. You can even start this way because it's a good way to kind of get everything fired up while keeping your abs out of the picture. So 10 of those, and then we're going to stay on our bellies to get into some back extensions, which is another part of the core that is very important to work, so you have overall core strength and everything is balanced. And really, the back extension work is one of the parts of our body that a lot of people struggle with for a couple different reasons. One, because it's a part of your core that you don't realize because everyone's so focused on like ab work because they want a six-pack. But also because the flexibility of your spine is really important, and a lot of people lose the flexibility, especially in this direction as they get older. So it's really, really important to focus on. So stop talking, sort of. We're going to bring our hands right underneath our shoulders. Elbows are going to hug our sides. Legs are going to just relax down on the ground, and we're going to go into a baby cobra. So we're going to lift the chest slightly up off the mat, and then you're going to lower back down. So it's really basic. You want to think of inhaling as you lift, and then exhaling as you lower, especially because it's actually kind of hard to exhale as you lift up because it kind of is counterintuitive to the way your body wants to move. And as you're lifting, it's important to remember that your back muscles, your core, are the ones that are doing the lifting. You're not pushing up. This is not a push-up. Your hands are on the mat, but essentially they're weightless. Don't use them. This is not an arm exercise. You want your back to be doing it. So we're going to do 5 of those, and on your 6th one, you're going to hold it up, and then we're going to go into a Superman. So you're going to hover your hands up off the mat, hover the legs as well, hold it up high as you can, and then lower everything back down. So we're going to do 5 of those. We inhale as we lift, squeeze your elbows tight to your sides, exhale as you lower. And as you lift up, really think of squeezing the shoulder blades together, engaging the upper back, all while feeling that extension in the low back. But you really want to think of the entire spine extending, because that's the purpose of this exercise. One of the purposes of the exercise. You want to think of elongating your spine, extending it. So you think of reaching up high as you can, and then lowering back down. We're going to lift up after this last one and hold it. So 5 of these. Hold the legs up high as you can. And we're going to reach your arms forward in front of you. Try not to let the chest or the thighs drop. And then we're going to swim our arms up and down. Swimming, swimming, swimming. We're going to go for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, lift higher, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then come down. Now, we're going to let the upper half of our body kind of chill. We're going to continue with this back extension work, but we're going to bend the knees. Bring your heels together and your toes apart so your feet are in this little V shape and your knees are separated. This is a lower back and glute exercise. Keeping the heels together, you're going to lift the knees up off the mat, squeeze the bum, and then lower the knees back down. We lift, dig the hips into the mat, lower. So the glutes and the lower back are directly connected to one another, obviously, and they're really, really important for each other's sake. The stronger the glutes are, the stronger your lower back will be, the more supported your lower back will be, especially if you're someone that experiences low back pain, which a lot of people do. This will help strengthen that part of your core. Try to lift the knees up as high as you can, and not just the knees, but as much of the thighs up as you can as well. We're doing 10. We're going to hold this last one up and just hold it there as high as you can. Relaxing the upper body as best as you can. Hold it for a count of 10. Let's do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Go ahead and windshield wiper the legs a little bit. That was called a dolphin kick. A lot of people call it different names, but that's what I call it. All right, from here, we're going to extend the legs back out. Place the hands back underneath the shoulders, and we're just going to go into a stretch. We're going to now press the palms into the mat. Lift the chest up using the hands this time. And if you feel like you can go higher, you can go all the way up. Get that nice big back bend. Open up your chest, drop the shoulders. Feel that stretch in your back and your belly. And then we're going to come into a child's pose. So we're going to round into it. It's really, really important to follow extension work with flexion work. It's just for the stretching of the spine.